Welcome back, everyone. This time we're really going deep, tackling a topic that, well, you guys clearly resonated with because this sermon series, It Ain't Over Yet, God Will Provide, went on for 5 parts.
Wow, 5 parts. That's got to be some kind of record.
Right. Must have hit a nerve. And it makes sense, that whole can't afford it thing. It gets us on so many levels, and I'm not just talking about cash.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, how often do we hit those mental roadblocks? Not just with money, but with our dreams, relationships, you name it.
Then the pastor, he gets it. He actually opens up about feeling that same heartbreak, that sense of limitation, makes it real, not just some sermon topic.
Right, exactly. It's one thing to preach it, another to live it.
Exactly. And speaking of real, I was so struck by how he uses that story of the widow down to her last bit of flour, about to be their last meal, her and her son, and then, bam, Elijah shows up. Talk about divine timing.
Classic example, right? It reminds me of that other story in John with the disciples. Jesus tells them, go feed 5,000 people with, get this, 5 loaves and 2 fish. 5 loaves, 2 fish. I mean, seriously.
I'd be digging under my seat for my kids' leftover goldfish crackers, not planning a banquet.
No kidding. But here's the kicker. They didn't hesitate. Started handing out those measly fish and loaves, even thanking God for what seemed, well, kind of laughable, really.
Yeah.
And that's the point, isn't it? That gratitude, even when facing what seems impossible, that's powerful stuff.
So true. It makes you wonder, right? What if, and I'm just putting it out there, what if our own can't afford it attitude, what if that's actually what's blocking the miracle? Like, what if instead of staring at the lack, we started thanking God for what we do have, even if it seems like, not much? Maybe, just maybe, that's the key that unlocks his provision.
It's like that shift in perspective, right? Instead of, I don't have enough, it becomes, God, what can you do with this?
Exactly. And it's not even always about trusting God for some flashy miracle. The pastor, he ties this back to discipleship, the nitty-gritty of following Jesus. He brings up Luke 14.28, count the cost. Now, we often jump to the money part.
Makes sense, right? Money's tangible, measurable.
For sure. But the pastor's saying there's this whole other layer. What about the cost of our comfort, our pride, our need to be right?
Ooh, that hits home. It's easy to say I'll follow Jesus, but what are we actually willing to leave behind?
Right. It's like we slap these price tags on our dreams because deep down we're scared of what it might really cost us.
And that fear can be paralyzing.
Absolutely. But he doesn't leave us hanging with all the tough questions. He brings in that comforting reminder from Philippians, God will supply all our needs. But, and I think this is so key, not always how we expect. It's like we want the promise without the process,
100%. Yeah. But, that whole idea of unexpected provision, it's all over the Bible. Take Abraham and Isaac, right? Talk about a gut punch. And we're not even talking about money here. This is about trusting God with, like, the most precious thing.
Your whole world, basically.
Exactly. And it's interesting. Even Isaac, even as a kid, he's picking up on this whole provision thing. He asked Abraham, where's the lamb for the offering? And Abraham, oh man, his response just slays me. God himself will provide the lamb. The faith dripping from those words.
Chills every time. It's like surrendering the need to understand, to control. Just this radical trust that God's got this, even when it makes 0 sense to our human brains.
Right. Easier said than done, though. Am I right?
Oh, tell me about it. Which is why I think the pastor brings in this story about the church in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, yeah. What was the deal with that? They were trying to...
So they feel called to plant a church, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Except 0 budget. And the only locations they can find, let's just say Cayman Islands and expensive, go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Okay, yeah, that's a tough one. Talk about a recipe for, nope, not going to happen.
Right, but they don't let that stop them. They start praying, asking God for wisdom, for provision. And this is where it gets good. They realize the only movie theater on the whole island, it sits empty every Sunday morning.
Hold up, really? Like, talk about seeing opportunity where everyone else just sees a locked door.
Exactly. And it would have been so easy to dismiss it, right? Oh, that's crazy talk. A church in a movie theater, the owner would never go for it.
Yeah.
But instead of letting that fear call the shots, they take a step of faith. They approach the theater owner, lay out their vision, and just trust that if this is God's thing, he'll open the door.
And don't leave me hanging.
He says yes.
It's out. See, that's what I'm talking about. God showing up in the most unexpected ways.
Right. It's like that saying, God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. They had passion, they had faith, and they were willing to move even when they didn't have all the answers figured out.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get stuck in that I need to know every step mentality. But that's not how faith works, is it?
Nope. Not even a little bit. This deep dive, it's not just about trusting God with money, though that's definitely part of it. It's about those areas in our lives where we've, without even realizing it, put limits on what we believe God can do. We draw these lines and say, okay, God, you can work up to this point, but beyond that, nah, that's asking too much.
It's like we're trying to put God in a box.
Yeah.
And that's never going to work. He's too big. His plans are too big.
Exactly. And the pastor, he challenges us with this question. He says, what's that thing, that dream, that calling that God's placed on your heart that seems bigger than your resources, bigger than your ability? It's like we're saying, God, I know you can handle famine, heal the sick, even raise the dead, but this right here, this is where you draw the line.
Right. Like he's got some kind of cosmic limit on miracles or something.
Exactly. And what I love about this pastor, he could have gone the easy route, guilt trip about tithing, all that. But he doesn't. He goes straight to the heart of it. It's not about squeezing more money out of us. It's about surrendering those limitations, those can't affords, to a God who laughs at the impossible.
Because for him, there is no impossible.
Mic drop moment right there. It's like saying, okay, God, I might not see a way, but I trust that you do. And that's where the adventure starts, We step out of our comfort zones and straight into, well, frankly, the kind of stuff that makes your palms sweat a little.
Because let's be honest, the things God calls us to, usually a little terrifying. If it doesn't require a whole lot of faith and a side of, oh, God, are you sure about this? Is it even a God-sized dream?
Right. I mean, think about the people in the Bible. Noah building an ark when it never rained, Gideon going to battle with, 300 guys? God's not afraid of our limitations. He's drawn to them.
Absolutely. It's like that quote we were talking about earlier. God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. We come to the table with our messy, flawed selves, maybe feeling totally clueless, and he says, perfect, let's do this thing.
And that's the beauty of it, right? This pastor said something that's really stuck with me. He said, the dreams God plants in our hearts, they're usually only attainable with his help. And there's this weird freedom in that. It takes the pressure off of us.
We don't have to have it all figured out. We just have to be willing to say yes to the one who does.
Exactly. And that's a promise we can cling to. No matter how big the dream, how scary the price tag, he is more than capable of making a way where there seems to be no way.
100%. It's about shifting our perspective from can't afford it to God, what can we do together?
Yes. This whole deep dive, it's been a good reminder that maybe, just maybe, the real price tag on those God-sized dreams, it's not about dollars and cents at all. Maybe, just maybe, it's about how much of ourselves we're willing to surrender to him. Letting go of our limited vision, our self-imposed restrictions, and embracing the boundless possibilities that come when we say yes to the one who can do immeasurably more than we could ever ask or imagine. So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to chew on this week. What impossible dream is tucked away in your heart? That step of faith you've been putting off because you can't see the whole staircase. Maybe this week, instead of focusing on the can't, we choose to focus on the can with God.